have no idea when dev starts on this.
Oh, me neither. Is it now?
It can't be now. There's no way. Wait, it's coming up. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Places.
The history of film. That Balahooey when the lights go dim. From James Cagney to Nosferatu and stunts that shock you and dirty tricks studios made. From Wings to Top Gun, movie stars and no ones. We're manic crazy fans that leave no real of fun. Hollywood is film history in Hollywood. They chase the Oscar, but it's all a sham, just like Shaq and Kazam. All your dreams can come true. Film history, the history of film. All of it made for you.
Good God, that was terrible. Last we left our hero, James Cagney was breaking into the industry, finally. He and Joan Blondell were doing a play called Penny Arcade on Broadway when they're scouted by none other than the king of blackface himself, Al Jolson. Al buys the rights to the play and sells it to Warner Brothers with James Cagney and Joan attached. Warner Brothers makes it into a movie called Sinner's Holiday. It's a big hit and puts the CAG on the map, see? After a few small contracts, Warner Brothers signs Jimmy to a 7-year, $400 a week contract with only 6 months at a time guaranteed. He would do a bunch of films right off the bat, 6 movies in 1931 alone, mostly playing woman-slapping gangsters in movies like Public Enemy, but showing his range in a picture called Blonde Crazy with Joan Blondell. That was Radio Man.
Thanks, Radio Man.
Thanks, Radio Man.
Radio Man's like, well, whenever there's something that needs to be recapped, I'll be there.
I'll be there. And then he disappears into the... I'll be there. He, like, opens your closet like Babe Ruth in the Sandlot.
He's just crawling out of the kitchen cupboards. What podcast is this, by the way?
This is Film History.
The history of film. Nice.
Film History, the history of film. This is James Cagney, Part 3, because in Part 1 I lied to you guys and said this is going to be a 2-parter, but then as soon as we began doing Part 2, I changed my mind. This was definitely going to be a Part 3. I do think that I wrapped it up really nicely here in Part 3, put a little bow on it. I think this is going to go great.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think this will go well.
So
I'm drinking coffee.
This entire podcast will be James Cagney, History of Cagney.
No. Look, this is going to be Part 3 of James Cagney, and we're going to wrap it on James Cagney, and then we will move on. The next episode, everyone, we've decided is going to be Waterworld. Oh, Deb, did we tell you that?
I'm so excited.
I'm pretty ecstatic how we're just, time warping through the dimensions. We're like Quantum Leap, but podcast version.
Dude, look, Drake was like, we'll start doing the research on Waterworld now. And I was like, oh, Drake, I've already done it, my friend. I did it independently without needing to remember it for a podcast.
Do you mean the 5,000-word essay I wrote in college where it was my thesis about how Waterworld changed the world?
It did. Waterworld changed everything.
Also, in this episode, you mentioned that we're going to kind of get into like the studio wars.
So yeah, this episode is going to be big about the studios in the 1930s. Well, 1920s through 1940s, really. Mm-hmm. But it is the studio wars, as we call them. Basically, James Cagney had it out with Warner Brothers every step of the way. They did not like each other. Jack Warner made a lot of money off of James Cagney, but would have preferred to have never worked with James Cagney.
Really?
Basically, yeah. He called him the great againster.
The great
againster.
You can't just make up things like that.
That sounds like an SNL skit.
Mm-hmm. The great againster.
That sounds like horrible World War I or II propaganda.
Seriously. He was kind of doing a lot of propaganda against James Cagney, but yeah, basically just, well, look, I guess it is, I guess you could say it was sort of biased because I'm studying James Cagney and his side of the story is that they were wrong, but also they were wrong,
They
were really bad.
From what I understand, I'll understand more as we go. It almost feels like the predatory record contracts of today.
Yeah.
Like, like for musicians. And shit.
It was. It absolutely was. And I'll tell you. So I'll start. It's 1932. James Cagney, he's walked out on the studio once already.
Right. Did we
Yeah.
end with him like saying like
I think we ended part 1 with him walking out.
Now,
Or
did
no,
he-
no, no. We ended part 2.
I think we had
Is it-
part 2 of him walking out, right?
Question: did he walk out or did he tap dance out?
He's like, and then he just zips off like in a cartoon.
Because if it were me, I would have just tap danced out sideways.
Dude, that'd be
Tip
so
my
great.
hat.
Oh my God. Call all the cameras. I'm about to tap dance out of this bitch.
And while punching
James-
like every exec on the way. You know.
Also, did you get any details about what happened to his wife?
Yes, yeah, I'll
Okay.
get into that.
Okay,
I'll get
cool,
into
all
that.
right.
But yeah.
Okay, good. Mystery solved.
Actually, no, I can go ahead and tell you because maybe before we get into this, when they were young and on vaudeville, they went broke at one point and moved in with his mom in New York.
Right.
So they were living there for a bit, and basically his mom and his brothers, Harry and William, and God, he had so many siblings, but his family did not like Frances at all. They didn't like her. Yeah, or Willie or Billy. She has 2 nicknames, but a lot of people call her Billy. Yeah, they didn't like her. I don't know. I couldn't quite find any like details on why they didn't like her. There's a lot of crazy early 1900s family stuff going on with these people. Like James Cagney and Frances at one point adopted 2 children, and people said these kids like lived in the barn and like didn't really like come around. Like they kind of kept these kids like, locked away basically.
What the fuck?
And when James Cagney died, he wrote them out of his will. He wrote
Whoa.
these 2 kids. Well, and they both died pretty young too.
Oh,
They
okay.
both died like in their 40s and 50s.
Okay, probably because
Yeah.
they didn't have any money.
One of them died of drugs.
Oh.
And I think the other one, died of like being
It's
poor,
almost like if you didn't
know?
write about their will, they might still be around.
He died of being poor back in those days.
You died of being poor now.
Very true. Damn, that's
Um,
deep.
And that hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed.
Some
Yeah.
things never change.
Wait, did he have any natural born kids?
No,
What?
he didn't.
Cagney had
Yeah.
no kids?
No kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still wrote the other ones out of his will?
Yep.
Who did he leave his money to?
I think somebody who he had become friends with, like a neighbor or something. It was it was one of those things where like literally it was
so fucked up.
Yeah, man. It does still happen to these days.
Wait. So, question. Well, I have a theory as why they didn't like Billy. Probably because, like, in those times, like, she had like her own career and
That's
like she
true.
was traveling around a lot, and then his mom was probably like, why isn't your wife? Like, I was trying to do an Italian accent, like old, like
She needs
Italian.
to be at home making you a sandwich.
Right? Yeah. It was probably more like they didn't like the independent
Needs to
nature
make
of.
you the spaghetti.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not gonna be the accent guy on this show. It started coming off as like Jewish. I was like, that's not what I was trying to do at all. Wait. So, but that doesn't explain why there's no information of her in the record books.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of information on her.
She
For one,
was never in any movie. She never acted in movies or anything.
no, she didn't. I looked it up, and
Wow.
she didn't. The only thing that she's in, she's mentioned in like a James Cagney documentary,
Wow.
basically. But I don't know. And then there is that possibility, like we said. I mean, James Cagney literally did a movie based on coming to LA to sign a contract and become an actor in films, and they literally told him, no one can know you're married.
Right.
You have to. He bought an apartment in the movie. He bought an
Yeah.
apartment for his wife to be his like secretary, and in real life he was his wife. So that
had to
could
be
have
what happened.
happened.
It had to
That
be.
could have absolutely been the way that it actually worked. I mean, it directly correlates to his life. He was a vaudeville guy, and then he lived in New York, and he
It
moved
had
to
to,
L.A. I mean, it was. They were probably just telling his exact story
Yeah.
in that movie.
What
They
movie
did
is
that a
it?
lot. It was something to sing about.
Something to
That's
sing
the
about.
movie. Yeah.
Nice. It's an actual Cagney film.
Yeah, it's a Cagney film. This was when he started working for, we'll get into it, but the smaller studios that were called Poverty Row.
Well, I'm hooked now. How do we?
Yeah. Okay.
So he goes to New York, and his brother becomes his advocate back home.
Right. His brother's acting as his agent. And he scraped together a deal finally to raise Cagney's salary from $400 a week to $1,000 a week. And I did the old calculator. That's 400 is $6,000, 1,000 is $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it.
Okay. So, question though, how is he able to negotiate that? Because isn't Cagney under contract? Can't they sue the shit out of him or something?
Yeah, I mean they could try to do that and get blood from a stone or whatever, but also more than likely. So his big argument later on, he's probably starting to pull it right here. Is he is a huge draw? I mean, his movies make huge dollars, So, and Warner Brothers knows that. So he knew he could walk out because he knew, they're going to come crawling back.
Yeah.
Because without him, they're losing out on a lot of money.
Right.
And so they knew that, he knew that, and his brother definitely knew that. And so, yeah, basically every time he would walk out, that was the case. It was like, okay, fine, I'll just leave, and you guys can find a new James Cagney. And there was no other James Cagney,
right.
So here I am thinking that James Cagney pulled a Bruce Willis, and it was really Bruce Willis pulled a James Cagney.
There you go. Shaved his head bald and started being a real pain in the ass.
Do you know, that's funny. You remember the story that Kevin Smith always tells about working with Bruce Willis?
Yeah,
and
said he would never do a studio film again.
Wait. Tell me the story. I've never heard this.
It's all over the internet, so you guys should listen to the full version from Kevin himself. But in short, the part that I was referencing is they had the studio was having a dispute with the writing of Kevin and Bruce, and while they were on set and they were going back and forth, and the studio exec got on the phone with Bruce Willis while they were on set, and the whole crew's around watching, and he goes, "Give me the phone," and he's talking to him, goes, "Yeah, He goes, "Well, how about this? Let me ask you one question. Who else are you going to get to play John? And, when are they going to start?" And it was just silence. He goes, "That's what I thought." And he goes, "Make the fucking changes." And he hungs up the phone. And then Bruce Willis got his way.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. He's known for rewriting your whole character if you're in the movie with him. He's known for writing characters out and you lose your job.
That is so frustrating.
Yeah.
That is very frustrating.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but he cooks a mean chicken apparently in his trailer. So,
hey, look, he did it, man. I mean, he definitely he had a whole career, that is for sure.
Yeah.
Just ruined a lot of other people's lives while he was at it. So the CAG returns to the studio for $1,000 a week, and he did a movie called Taxi. That's the one where he's actually shot at, and he says, "You dirty rat." He did that movie, Taxi. Right. It's a really good movie, really good. Yeah, that's the one where there's the scene where he's shooting down at the cops, and one of the cops shoots the Thompson submachine gun at the window that he's at.
Yeah. And
in real life, a bullet went where his head just was, and
right.
And that's where he said, "No more shooting at me ever again."
What a prima donna.
Yeah, right. So he returned to the studio. He did the movie Taxi, where he actually gets shot at, the part where he's shooting down at the cops, and the cops shoot the Thompson submachine gun at him. And
yeah, but it was a Thompson. They don't have anything to worry about. They're not gonna shoot anybody in the head with that thing.
Yeah, no.
Well, he was a sharpshooter with this Thompson apparently, and he had only had a half a bottle of liquor that day, so there was no doubt about it. He was not going to shoot our beloved movie star in the head.
Hey, question: was liquor stronger back then? Was a bottle of liquor or now they're what? A bottle of whiskey's 40 proof, or or 80 proof? It's 40%, right? A bottle of liquor's 40%, right?
Yeah.
Was it stronger back then?
I got you here. I got an answer. The term proof comes from the way that they used to test alcohol back in the frontier days. So no, they would take a little bit of the spirit and they would add a certain like amount, like a spoonful, a teaspoon or something full of gunpowder. And if it lit on fire, it was to be proven, it was of proof that it was strong enough. Where if it didn't light on fire, it was watered down too much and they didn't want to prove it. Gunpowder should light on fire. So nowadays proof just means double the percent. So 80 proof is 40% alcohol.
I'd say it was more potent.
The short answer to that is no, it wasn't really stronger. It was just laced with gunpowder, maybe.
That's so fucking interesting, dude.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I know they drank a lot more of it back in the day. Yeah. I mean, it might not have been stronger, but we were talking about it at the time. Like in the 1930s, I saw Walt Disney's schedule recently, his like studio schedule on his big adventure to South America and all that. And it said 11:45 a.m. to 12:30 were cocktails by the pool. 3:15 to 3:45 were cocktails in the lounge, and then from 8 to 1 a.m. was just the schedule just said heavy binge drinking for the rest of the night. That was these people used to, people. I mean, there's the whole thing where Mad Men showed us for real, but man, these people were getting sauced at lunch. We're talking about a time where I mean,
bro, people were getting so drunk that the entire country said, we got to take a sobriety break here.
Yeah, man, seriously. Yeah, they were we got to dry out. Just let us, dry out for the 20s. Dude, Churchill.
They're we're fucking up so much. Look what we did for the, or actually that came later. I was look what we did to the stock market, but that came after.
Yeah, Churchill for breakfast had an ounce and a half of rye whiskey, a half ounce of cold brewed coffee, and some bitters, and that was that was his breakfast.
Wait a minute! What the fuck? He puts cold brew coffee and bitters to get coffee isn't bitter enough.
I did know about the Churchill part. I mean, everyone in World War II was super wasted.
I mean, imagine Jack Warner. Imagine Jack Warner, the studio head. Imagine these days you go to the studio head's office of Warner Brothers, and the dude's just sitting at his desk at 8:30 in the morning with a glass of whiskey. That's what we're talking about here.
That's amazing. I never want to hear anyone tell me I'm too drunk to do a job ever again.
Well, no one said they were.
This has inspired me to drink more.
No one said they were productive.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think that the productivity speaks for itself with the output,
Amen.
They built a whole industry drunk.
Cagney follows Taxi up with a role as a race car driver in The Crowd Roars with Joan Blondell.
Oh.
With his main co-star, Joan Blondell.
Question: did he actually drive, or were they some people at this time?
Probably. Knowing James Cagney probably drove while they shot at him, or he actually punched people in the face after the race. That's probably how the film was made. With Joan Blondell. And then he played a boxer in Winner Takes All. And speaking of, his co-star was this huge silent film stuntman. He stunted for Buster Keaton and stuff, which
Buster Keaton used a
exactly if it was something Buster Keaton wouldn't do, this guy would do it, and that's who Cagney did this boxing movie with. And if you watch it, man, they lit each other up.
They actually fought?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's amazing. That's a really good movie too. That's a boxing movie that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's a James Cagney movie that doesn't get talked about a lot, where he played this boxer, and he's the drunk boxer. He basically played his dad.
Yeah, I was about to say. So
Whoa.
he pulled from experience there.
Man, see, and that's Cagney did that, man. Every movie he made, it seems like it was something to do with his real life. It always seemed like his, Yankee Doodle Dandy, his big one. He played this vaudeville king, and it was a guy who he worked for real in vaudeville tap dancing. It was always maybe he wasn't human, man.
That's what you call the workings of a great actor.
There you go. Very true.
Was he ever a race car driver?
Who knows? Maybe he was. Dev, I forgot to tell you about this. He was really into sailing, and painting. He was a painter.
Interesting.
He said if he had it all to do again, he would have become a famous painter rather than a famous actor. Which,
I guess because painters don't answer to a studio.
yeah, that's very true. Very true.
So, paint and do cocaine.
So while he's doing these movies, he's now that he has come back to the studio, I guess he and his brother are kind of diving into their rights as his right as an actor and other people's rights. This is around the time where he's like getting into the formation of SAG, where he and a bunch of actors.
Wait, so he started SAG?
He and a bunch of other actors.
Oh.
But he was at one point he was president of SAG at one point, but we'll get into that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
But
part 4.
he was a big part of starting SAG, and his walkout on the studio was gasoline on the fire of SAG. Like him walking out and it working was it. And SAG at this point, was picking up speed, but it would get to a point where SAG would become so powerful so fast that they could walk into a studio and strike your studio if you didn't give them what they wanted.
It's crazy because that's interesting because like now it's like if you want to work in big movies, you have to be in SAG.
Yeah,
like it's not even an option.
Which is it's as much as I love that SAG exists and they do provide benefits and they do protect actors, not as much as I would hope they would, to be honest. There's still people getting hurt on set all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not all their fault, of course.
Right.
But that being said, I still do.
I heard their healthcare is not great either.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah. That being said, I don't know. I have a small problem with the fact that you're required to join a union to work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's also like can be a little prohibiting to like new actors too, who like don't have their SAG
Definitely.
credits yet, or like no one will. What's it called? Afney Doodle.
Taft-Hartley.
No one will Taft-Hartley them.
I just wanted to say from the perspective of a film producer, SAG is amazing, and they've been nothing but
There you go.
kind and generous, and I wish
You're
nothing
right.
but their success in every
Yeah, what's that
endeavor.
red dot on Drake's head right now, right? Like,
Well, it's interesting because it's like it's literally like it's SAG's like if you want SAG actors, everyone has to be in SAG, which is like kind of like that sucks a little bit, but I understand why too. Though I mean that's where the power comes from. If they didn't have that restriction, they wouldn't have as much say. You know what I mean? Like it comes from it's almost a necessity to wield the power that they have, which is
And it'll
mostly
get better.
used for good.
It'll get better too. I mean,
Yeah.
believe it or not, in my opinion, we're still in the kind of early days of SAG. I
Really?
mean, SAG's not an old union, older than some. I don't know.
It's pretty old,
But-
man. I mean, that was right
Yeah.
around the time when the unions came about, like in the early 1900s.
yeah.
What did it be? It may be late by like a decade or something from the main ones, but
Yeah, it's an old one.
Yeah.
It's not as old as like the Freemasons.
Is
They're
that
not
a
a-
union?
They're not a union.
I'm
You should
just
say
fucking with you.
we're not a union.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. I was fucking with Deb. Yeah, he's doing Winner Takes All, and he and his brother start looking into how Warner Brothers works. And Cagney got wise to a scheme that Warner Brothers was doing, but not only Warner Brothers, every studio in town was doing this. It was called block booking. And it was either called block booking or block bidding or sometimes blind bidding. And it's when a studio would only grant theaters access to their A films if they agreed to also screen a block of their B films as well. You can only buy this movie
Okay.
if you buy these other movies too.
Okay.
And yeah, like, and this got out of control super fast.
Well, so like to compare it, like if you want to, back when Fox was its own company, if you want the new X-Men film, you also have to take these 5 Fox Searchlight
Exactly.
films. Like
Exactly.
Fox Searchlight's our indie brand. You have to take these 5 films. No one's
Well, sort of, except for it wasn't their indie brand. These were just Warner Brothers films that were their B ones, the
Okay.
ones that they just didn't spend as much money on.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
All
I
right,
guess
sure,
in a
yeah.
way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean,
it was,
that's
yeah.
I mean, that's still kind of the same concept. It's like
Yeah.
this is the branch of movies we spend less money on. You know.
Yeah, like in one case, Paramount Pictures president Adolf Zukor He had something. Adolf.
Well, there's the
Zukor.
problem right there. It's your red flag.
There's never been a bad Adolf, you know.
What are this Fuhrer's demands from Paramount?
This man, the Paramount Pictures president, he bought a chain of theaters called Paramount Publix, totaling 1,200 screens, and he forced them all to sign this block bidding contract. Then they would agree to this method on an all or nothing basis. Like, either you do the block thing, you cannot negotiate, or we're just not going to show. And he owned these theaters, or we're just not going to show Paramount Picture films in your theater. And
so wait, when did the law come about? Because now movie studios are not allowed to own theaters.
no, block bidding was outlawed. Let's see, I have it down here. It wasn't out. It was just in 1938, the Department of Justice Antitrust Division filed lawsuits against everybody, and there was a case called the Famous Players Lasky suit, and that was levied against all the distribution companies. The Department of Justice brought upon lawsuits on all 8 major studios, and it's basically. It's all but outlawed. Really.
Now, something you mentioned before was sometimes during these block bookings, you said that they would be forced to buy movies that like literally weren't even made yet.
Yeah, so
you just didn't know what you were buying.
Yeah, they had to agree. There was also full line forcing where you also had to buy the short films that they would put out, all of them. And yeah, some of these movies that they were buying weren't even made yet. The only knowledge that the theater could gain was this movie's being made. Here's the actor. Here's the genre. Look forward to it coming to your theater in the fall.
Now, did this ever lead to a situation where, since the movie was already sold, they just didn't make very good movies because why bother?
No, that's absolutely what would happen. It's like, this movie is literally already sold before we even started making it. So why are we? I mean, unless Jack Warner suddenly actually got a passion for the arts and wanted to make good films, you know. I think he more than likely was like, spend as little money as possible. And a lot of that probably did lead to, you know, set accidents and cheap materials, and I'm sure really dangerous sets.
Yeah. Did any of this lead to like a fatigue with the audience? Did the ratio of bad movies exceeding good movies cause a disinterest in going to the theaters and like cause a theater slump?
I don't know.
Everybody loved the new genre.
Yeah.
It's too new. They could fuck up and still get away with it.
Yeah, and you know, at this time, we're talking about a theater was an air-conditioned building that you could go into. You know,
Sure.
I mean, for real, like, there's a place where you can go and be out of the heat and be out of the Great Depression for like 5 minutes, you know, because this is the height of the Great Depression where this is happening, you know.
Well, that's fascinating because it's like arts do very well during like we haven't been in a depression in our lifetime, but we've been in a couple recessions.
Definitely.
And like the video game market always does great during these time periods because it's like people, no matter what's happening in the world, people still need entertainment.
For sure. Yeah,
So.
absolutely. It's recession proof. It definitely will change. And things become new and different, but yeah, the film industry.
They tried. They tried to eliminate this culture of block scheduling and purchasing from the studio system by preventing the studios from being vertically integrated, so they couldn't own their distribution as well as their exhibition.
I see.
So the way it works now is you have like a film studio or a production house that makes a movie, and then that company will go to a distribution company, and then the distributor will take that film to the theaters, which are called the exhibitors. So there's no direct connection between the studio and the theater chain now. You're required
So
to
why
go
is Disney
through
allowed to
a
own the El
distributor.
Capitan?
You could self-distribute, but
Yeah, I've wondered that. too.
Disney does own a theater still. They own the El Capitan. I always wondered why that was legal.
Maybe because they're
but
considered more of like a corporation.
So what most likely happens is Disney as a studio still has to give, let's say they're playing, the new Pixar movie or whatever. They have to give that movie to a distributor. Then that distributor gives it back to the El Capitan. So and that's so everybody gets their cut and percentage. It's the same way with like liquor sales. So if you have a distillery, the distillery is required by law, even if they make their bottles and let's say they sell their bottles at the bar downstairs, like the distillery I worked at in St. Augustine was like this. They had to take those bottles from a federally bonded warehouse. They put them on a truck. They let them go sit in a warehouse, a federal warehouse that's bonded in Gainesville.
Owned by the government.
They sit there for 3 days and then they get back on a truck and they go back to the distillery so they can go in the fucking bar downstairs and be served.
That's how Mississippi is too.
That's weird.
It's specifically designed, but it's government telling the companies that you have to give 50% to this company of your revenue, 50% to this, and
so it's to stop like monopolizing and stuff, like to stop so that one person doesn't have too much power, I guess.
It's to prevent one company from being able to do exactly what these studios were doing, and dominate and force other smaller boutique stuff to operate on their terms as the bigger company. Here's a great example: Disney and the new Star Wars. Disney told all the theaters that if they wanted the new Star Wars when it first came out, The Force Awakens, they had to run it for at least 90 days or some shit. I don't know what it was exactly. It might have been 60 days, but it was a long time. And that's fine if you're, AMC in the middle of, Atlanta or Los Angeles or something. But it's not okay if you're, mom and pop shop theater in the middle of, Micanopy, Florida, or some small town of 1,000 people, where after 2 weekends, everyone in the city has seen the film.
Right.
So you're not going to make any money off of ticket sales. You make all your money. And then what Disney also did is said for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, instead of giving the exhibitor and distributor 50%, Disney's requiring that they keep 90%. And then after that first period, the first few box offices, then it would go to 50%. So that was unprecedented too. Nobody had ever done that. But basically they were like, you only get this movie under these terms. Right. So if they wanted to survive and people wanted to have that movie shown, they had to accept it. Another example, speaking of Star Wars and Disney and stuff, in episode 6, the third of the original 3 made. So the sound designers, and by the way, I heard this on American Innovations on Spotify podcast by Wondery. They have 3 episodes titled Star Wars Cinema Technology. And that's where I heard about this. And it was explained to me that the sound design engineers and sound designers love all the hard work they put into the first and second movie. But when they watched them in theaters that were like their hometown local theaters, the theater's stereo wasn't up to par quality enough to be able to deliver the sounds. So the movie sounded completely different in a normal lower quality theater, whereas the theaters that had the right equipment were only in big cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. So they created a company called THX, and for the third film, so what THX did is they developed stereo systems for movie theaters, and for the third movie, George Lucas said, nobody is going to be able to show Star Wars in their movie theater unless they have a THX sound system. Wow. So that's how they got their sound hardware distributed into all of their theaters. But again, that's kind of like one of these flex moves from once you have
that's so
market
cool.
control of everybody wants your movie or everybody, wants James Cagney, they flex and show your muscle.
And the small theaters are like, yeah, great, can't wait to buy can't wait to buy all those new speakers for my theater. I just happened to buy them last month for the theater, the ones that we have now, but I guess now I'll just go buy the THX ones.
Yeah. I mean, that does suck for some smaller things, but I'm a huge fan of creators' intent, and if needed, barring certain experiences, and it sucks. It's it'd be great if everyone could see it and it was cost appropriate for everybody. But I think if it gets in the way of the art being experienced the way it was meant to be experienced, I'm a fan of making those hard cutoffs. For example, I would not be upset at all if like Tarantino was like, you can't show my movie if it's not on 70 millimeter. You know what I mean? Like, because that's the creator's intent. It's meant to be watched on 70 millimeter. There's always a digital version too, because again, not every theater has 70 millimeter film capacity. But like, you know, I also don't think there's anything wrong with being like, no, my movie was only meant to be experienced in this way, and like I will not allow it to be experienced anywhere else, any other way. You know?
Yeah, it was totally a flex, and really, it was really the only big studios could do this. Only big studios had the clout, had the movie stars, had the money to even make demands like this. You know, like what we were talking about. I mean, yeah, George Lucas could make the demands about THX, and in this case, in the 30s, the big 8 studios were the only ones that could force theaters into block booking, really. And so...
Like, George Lucas wouldn't have been able to do that with the first movie. It was only because it got so popular.
Yeah, exactly. It made a big gap between the big studios and the small studios. There was definitely a class gap here from the big studios and, you know, like I was saying earlier, Poverty Row, the smaller studios. And also with independent films. So usually what smaller studios would do instead of block bidding or block booking, they would have a movie star, their star, that they would make like 6 or 7 films with, and they would sell that to the smaller theaters. They'd sell like all these like 6 or 7 films, and that's one of the reasons why you have all these movies from back in the day where it was, I mean, the best I can think of really was like, it was later on, but it was like Clint Eastwood in all of the...
So you're saying they were basically like indie stars.
Yeah,
and they were
these were like
popular
indie stars.
in the indie circles.
Right.
So Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's getting more...
He's big now, but like for a while
totally.
he was just like the indie darling.
He was like a Chloe Savini.
Yeah,
somebody like that.
Someone
like
who's
an
like
indie
he's
darling.
only in these weird indie movies, and a certain group of people love those movies.
Yeah.
But like your mom has never heard of like fucking Lady Bird. Like
Right, for sure. And also it was leading to, this is where you definitely had those art house theaters where if you wanted to go see a film that was made by one of these Poverty Row studios, you might have to go seek out the theater in town that's even showing it.
Right,
you know?
okay.
Because the big theaters are already full. I mean, at one point, Zukor from Paramount, Adolf Zukor, Mr. Adolf himself, at one point, he had theaters by a block of 104 films a year, showing 2 films a week for 52 weeks consecutively. And like I said, I mean, they had to do this. So these theaters were, if you take that, that's just Paramount. If each studio is doing that, if 8 studios are doing
Holy
this,
shit.
your theater's booked for the rest of the year.
That is
I mean,
an
to be
insane
fair,
amount of movies a year.
Yeah.
To be fair, like, you didn't really have to do it. I mean, if you didn't do it,
Right.
Adolf may, you know, like put you in a really good work camp.
No.
For the
if you
movie
didn't do it,
inclined.
It literally was just Hitler, but like he was wearing a beard. Like he moonlighted as a studio executive. Like he would come in, he put like one of those like loop on ear beards, and he was.
It's like Hitler didn't die in Germany. He escaped to be head of Paramount Studios.
Just change his name to Zukor.
Zukor.
Yeah,
Dude,
no one will know this.
This was when Hitler was just coming to power.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
This is what he did first.
He might have named himself after Adolf Zukor. You know, maybe Adolf Zukor was the inspiration for Adolf.
He not only tried to become a famous painter, but he failed at becoming a famous actor as well.
Bro,
with Paramount.
Zukor is
Zukor.
the most Dungeons and Dragons name I've ever heard.
He should have made Zukor Pictures.
Zukor,
Right.
yeah, dude.
So
If Zukor Pictures had been the name of the company, like they would be the dominant movie force in the world.
So anyway, so James Cagney knows about this. He knows about block booking. He knows that Warner Brothers is just making literally every film that you made this year you sold no matter what. So he knows they're rolling in dough. And basically he says, you're making all this money, selling every picture you make, and you can't afford to pay me more than $1,000 a week. That's bullshit. I'm a huge pull for you. I'm just as big as Edward G. Robinson, Edward G. Robinson makes $4,000 a week, and that's what I want. And that's the equivalent of $60,000 a week, by the way. And also, he wanted no more than 4 pictures a year. He did not want to make more than 4 movies a year because at the time that he started making these demands, he was working 100 hours a week. And not only, he wasn't the only one. Kids were working 100 hours a week. Young teenagers are working 100 hours a week. All these actors, you'd sign this contract and they would make you do 6 movies in a year, and it was, you were like I said on part 2, I mentioned where you'd walk from one stage to the other. Yeah. You would just literally get off of one shoot, walk to the next, and it was never ending.
Wow. And that's on top of learning your lines.
Yeah.
And like all this other shit, right?
Totally. And then some cases for him, dancing,
right.
getting shot at,
right.
boxing, racing cars. Like 100 hours a week is a lot.
Yeah.
To do what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he basically said, look, I'm going to do 4 pictures a year for you. Pay me $4,000 a week right now when I'm this white hot star. But if for whatever reason I start to fall off popularity, then we can just fluctuate my salary, as we go, which is what a crazy idea, right? I mean, you're insane, man. You're insane. Yeah. And especially because at this point, he's sending back money to mom. And not only at this point, though, his mom is not the only one he's sending money back to. He's sending back money to his old neighborhood buddies, and he would send care packages to a lot of his friends, like just house supplies, and sometimes he'd pay their rent, stuff like that.
He had his 3rd wife, his 4th wife, his 5 other families and illegitimate children.
No way, man. Cag stuck with old Billy his whole life, man.
Dude.
He got married one time.
He is sending all this money to his mom for her to sit there and still be like, you ain't never going to be nothing.
When are you going to get a real job?
When are you going to get a real job and stop sending me thousands a week?
You lazy sack of shit. I mean, his brothers are doctors and lawyers. So it's like, yeah, for sure she was saying this to him, And they're probably all sending money to mom, too. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
dude,
the lawyers and doctors are sending it back, too.
She's caked up, dude.
She did it right. That's what you do. You raise kids to pay you when they get old enough.
You raise successful kids.
This was before we had Social Security. It was in family
your
Social
kids
Security.
That's true.
Your kids are your Social Security. And, at the time, she's probably like the ripe old age of 32 by now, so it's about time to start making that cake off your kids. So Warner Brothers once again told him, no, fuck you. You're getting your 1,000 a week. We just agreed on this, and now you want your $4,000 a week. It's not going to happen. So once again, he walked out of the studio.
He tap danced away into the night.
Danced once again out of the gates of Warner Brothers into the night. And this time around, Warner Brothers said, okay, well, you can walk out, but this time we're suspending you. They suspended him. They put him on 6 months suspension no matter what. Even if, basically you can't come back for 6 months no matter what.
And he was like, oh, great. Oh, I don't have to work 100-hour weeks for 6 months?
Right.
Oh, God, no. What will I ever do with all this free time?
Start a union.
Start a union. That's exactly what he did, Dev. That's exactly what he did. He went to New York, and he spent 6 months. Well, and he hung around LA as well, but he spent that 6 months basically galvanizing SAG with the other actors, the Screen Actors Guild. And like I said, I mean, he did this also because he was genuinely disturbed to see teenagers working 100 hours a week. 14-year-old kids are on set for 100 hours a week.
What a progressive he was. Maybe we shouldn't slap women and make kids work 100 hours a week.
It's some liberal hippie. And actually, God, I guess this is kind of the perfect time to bring it up. He was basically called by a lot of people like a communist sympathizer. He very much was. He never called himself communist, and during the whole blacklist in the 50s that we'll get into at some point, I'll have a whole 3-parter on that probably.
Yeah.
The House of Un-American Committee.
The House of Un-American Committee?
Yeah.
It was called the House of Un-American Committee?
It was something. It was like the House of Un-American something. Did let him go in the 50s for not being communist. So he never quite was communist, but his involvement with SAG and other unions didn't help.
Karl Marx would be proud.
Yeah, for sure.
Proud.
And he had some money dealings with. He made donations to cotton farmers that were striking in California. He bought an ambulance for a Spanish Republican army during the Spanish Civil War. And like I said, he's
love this guy.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He started. He and Ronald Reagan actually at the time. Ronald Reagan was an actor at the time. And he and Ronald Reagan were going around town kind of like spreading this labor laws word, And
what?
Wait, you didn't know this?
No, the part of that sense that surprised me the most is the Reagan part.
Oh, Ronald. Oh, I know. No, Ronald Reagan in the 30s was way more
before the
liberal.
Money corrupted him.
Yes,
yeah.
I think so. He was
sold out for money.
Yeah. He was going around with James Cagney talking about like we need more rights and labor laws and stuff. Which I mean, at the time, I guess he was being paid by the studios, so maybe that was just in his best interest. But this was before the Red Scare was happening. In the 30s, communism was kind of being seriously looked at. It was less of like everybody was terrified of it. I mean, there were definitely a lot of people who were terrified of it, but it was the Great Depression. So a lot of people were kind of saying like, well, maybe communism is the way,
Well, let's take a second look at this. I don't know. Capitalism seems to be fucking up right here.
Capitalism doesn't seem to have worked for me since I gotta wait in a fucking bread line.
It's like when you're like, separated from your girl, but not quite broken up with, and you go on another date, and you're just feeling out the waters, and
after this sabbatical, Cagney comes back into the office, and Warner sits down and is like, "All right, now listen. Now I'm gonna let this little transgression slide, but you're not gonna be acting this way on my studio anymore." And Cagney was like, "Comrade, our studio.
Our studio, comrade."
It's our studio.
Did he say that to Adolf? Because I'm sure Adolf just screamed and had him taken away.
Adolf probably did not like.
I feel like they would have had some disagreements.
Anyone named Adolf
Adolf was probably not a big fan of the unions.
Yeah, anyone named Adolf has gone on record with being against unions.
Like, at first he was just indifferent and kind of chill, but then he was like, enough of this, and they just like went after him.
So he went to galvanize the unions of some other people, and then how quickly did it take for unions to catch on as like a thing?
Very fast.
Okay.
I mean, they had been rumbling, but one of the things was, like I said, this gave them a lot of power here. SAG, basically, by the time his 6-month suspension was up in 1933, he had spent that 6 months with them, and his walkout had become this poster, for SAG. It was like, look, James Cagney is walking away from the studio because he doesn't agree with the way that things are there. Clearly, we have got to unionize and do something about this, and not to mention, like I said, I mean, his first walkout worked, and this second one is going to work as well. This second walkout, I mean, he goes back to the studio.
Right, yeah.
The second, when his 6-month suspension was up, Frank Capra, legendary director, directed, I guess A Wonderful Life. I mean, I could go on for days about what Frank Capra directed, but legendary director, he brokered a deal between James Cagney and Warner Brothers for $3,000 a week and 4 films a year. So instead of his $4,000 a week, it was $3,000, but he did get his 4 films a year deal.
So 4 films a year seems like a big cutback from what they were asked to do before.
Yeah.
The studio's like, 4 films a year. We film a film every 6 weeks. What are you talking about?
I mean,
so like, did this lead to more free time, or
I'm
like did they
sure.
just
Oh,
spend,
yeah.
or did they spend longer on those 4 films?
no, I'm sure it led to a lot more free time for him.
Okay.
You know, probably. I mean, and by this point, he was doing a lot of other stuff outside of the studio, like
Right.
unionizing against them.
Right, like
So
starting
this-
the American Communist
Right,
Party. Yeah.
right. So this gave him a lot more time with his wife and a lot more time to do that type of stuff. Who?
The wife he's not legally allowed to have. Wait. So when the unions first like started like coming up, him being such a big part of it, did they kind of like? I mean, I'm sure the studios had a big pushback for these unions, right?
Oh yeah.
And
there was
then
a
with
war.
him being like the main force behind this, I'm surprised the studio didn't just drop him entirely.
Like I said, Jack Warner hated him, but they couldn't drop him. He
He
was
was
one
too
of the
popular?
biggest stars in the world. It'd be like, I mean, I'm trying to compare him. I mean, I guess like a Brad Pitt. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if Brad Pitt has a contract with a studio, they're gonna do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was.
I mean, are there even movie stars today as big as like Cagney? I mean, maybe like The Rock, I guess.
yeah.
Like just like as far as like box office numbers and
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean-
because I feel like it
Well-
now. I mean, this is kind of stars in general. Oh, sorry. What's up?
No, go ahead.
Oh, it's like stars in general now. It's like more decentralized. I feel like
For sure.
back in the it's kind of hard to imagine because back in the older days, like there was like the big star, and now there's just like there's a lot of stars that are big, but it's like fractured.
There's more
Yeah. There's one thing.
screens.
Yeah.
There's more screens, and you know he wasn't even the biggest at the time. I'd say Humphrey Bogart was way
Mm.
bigger than James Cagney. You know, Humphrey Bogart was absolutely the star.
Yeah,
of
he
this
might have been
time.
like the Pit or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Humphrey Bogart was definitely the Pitt or the Clooney.
James
Yeah, he was
Cagney
that
was
big.
like, you know, the non-goofy Seth Rogen.
James Cagney. James Cagney was like Johnny Depp,
Okay.
like in his fame.
Okay.
You know, he was like, yeah, I would say.
And
Okay, yeah.
in his real life, maybe too.
Yeah. Oh man.
If you want to believe tabloids, I don't know.
Man, we'll do that film history episode one day. Just the Johnny Depp episode.
Oh yeah. That'd be interesting. Yeah,
That'd be
because
interesting.
it's like yeah.
So he gets this $3,000 a week, 4 films a year, and the old calculator that's $45,000 a week, which is very good. He starts a steady stream of films after the suspension. Most notably, though, he did Hard to Handle, Footlight Parade, where he got to put the old CAG tap shoes back on, and a movie called Here Comes the Navy. And on Here Comes the Navy, he met an actor named Pat O'Brien, and that would become his best friend, basically. Cagney's like best friend throughout life was Pat O'Brien after they
And
did
you
Here
met
Comes
him
the
in
Navy.
was what, like mid-30s?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this man ain't got no time, bro. He's been working. He didn't have time for friends Greg,
Until now.
until now.
He's got this cushy 4-movie deal.
And he wasn't. I mean, that is funny that you say that though, because he wasn't a big social guy. Cagney wasn't hanging out at the Villanova all the time and stuff. You know, I mean, he was basically. I mean, for one, working 100 hours a fucking week. So like, he doesn't ever go out. You know, he wasn't a big drinker
Yeah.
because his dad was a drunk.
Right.
He was kind of a chill guy who would go home and go to bed and memorize his lines. You know, and be with his wife. He was just kind of like. He wasn't the party guy. He definitely was no like Errol Flynn, you know. And but Pat O'Brien introduced Cagney to some other actors: Spencer Tracy, Frank McHugh, and Ralph Bellamy, Louis Calhern, and Frank Morgan. And this group would become, they got a nickname from the tabloids, the Irish Mafia. And they were basically like, the Rat Pack came later, and in the 80s, the Brat Pack came along. Well, in the 30s, there was the Irish Mob, and it was Pat O'Brien, like I said, Ralph Bellamy, James Cagney, Spencer Tracy, Frank McHugh, and Frank Morgan.
Oh, dude,
And-
that's so cool.
And
They
they were
just
the guys.
beat their way into Hollywood.
They were just going down the road, all throwing punches at everybody they passed.
Dude, that's so cool. That's just, I don't know why. I don't know why I find that so endearing.
Oh,
It's
awesome, dude. I love these stories about these like old school movie stars all hanging out.
It kind of reminds me of DiCaprio and
Tobey
Maguire.
Maguire,
Yeah. And that whole crew,
you have this all pop up. Like I said, I mean, the Brat Pack in the '80s was famous, man. I mean, you had Rob Lowe and Charlie Sheen, and who else was in the Brat Pack, Dad? Do you remember?
Yeah, Molly Ringwald and what's his face, the kid from Weird Science and 16 Candles. I don't remember his name.
Emilio Estevez, Anthony Michael Hall, Rob Lowe, Andrew McCarthy, Demi Moore, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy. Yeah, it was like, and they all hung out all the damn time.
Oh, that's so cool! I can't wait for the tabloids to give our group a name.
They're just gonna call us like the Rat Asses or something.
The Dondo Degenerates.
The Dondo Rats. The Street Kids, bro. That's what I'm going for. The Street Kids.
They think they're gonna call us, what is it, Poverty Row or whatever?
Poverty Row, yeah. The Broke Boys.
The Broke Boys. Poverty Row. These fucking pieces of shit degenerates came from the gutters and made movies. Dude, it's gonna happen.
They never left.
This man.
Yeah, and then they went back to the gutters.
from the swamps of Florida and the backwoods of Mississippi. Came the biggest filmmakers in history. And then it's just a picture of us like wasted at a bar, like sleeping on the floor or something. It's like, these are the minds of all time.
Wearing a gator, like an actual gator.
Just a whole gator skin suit.
The gator's still alive. It's just walking over us.
Yeah.
The gator's partying with us.
Yeah.
Instead of a parrot, it's just a gator on my shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, they're furless bears. They're really,
That's really what
you can
they
be
are.
friends with them is what I'm saying.
They don't even speak in a language that we can understand. It's just grunts and growls. They're animals.
If they speak through biting you. If you're doing bad, they'll bite you. If you're doing good, you won't get bitten, maybe.
Man. But by 1935, it's full entourage shit for Cagney. By 1935, he is.
Oh yeah.
He was listed as one of the top 10 moneymakers in Hollywood. He started getting more roles besides just gangsters. He played a lawyer who joins the FBI in G-Men, which is a fantastic movie. He plays Nick Bottom in Shakespeare's Midsummer's Night Dream, along with Mickey Rooney and Joe E. Brown. So he's doing Shakespeare. He's doing lawyer roles. He's hanging out with the Irish Mafia. He's making money. Top 10 moneymakers in Hollywood. Oh yeah! My man, a mini
That's amazing.
Pretty sure we'll get pulled for using that song.
That's why, that's why we got
parody law. We're just singing it.
We can sing it. It's fine.
Oh, okay. I see.
We sing it.
We'll just have to do a whole sung version by us.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we are so bad that no one could ever construe that as the actual song. So
we'll do some rehearsals and we'll get like the pentatonics version down, and we'll just three of us harmonize.
The No Chaser, whatever they're called, dude. Listen to this, though. I'm about to tell you guys something that happened in 1934 that is some of the wildest shit I've ever heard. In 1934, James Cagney got involved in some politics again when he joined the revolt against what is called the Merriam Tax. So,
what is a Merriam Tax?
Merriam Tax, 1934, height of the Great Depression, Governor of California, James Roth, dies. Just dies, which
mysteriously?
I don't blame him.
Oh,
I don't blame him for dying in the height of the Great Depression.
He
at all.
died.
I would have done so too.
He died from being poor.
Yeah, he died being the governor of California. It's like, well, this ain't it, fellas. I'm out. So now, the gubernatorial race is on, and Frank Merriam runs against Upton Sinclair. And you probably recognize Upton Sinclair, the muckraking reformist. He wrote The Jungle. Have you ever heard of the book The Jungle?
No, I'm fixated on their weird, goofy names.
Yeah. I mean, these are all 1900s names,
Sinclair is a very famous name.
Yeah, Upton Sinclair.
France.
Yeah, read The Jungle. It's some good stuff.
Okay.
And that's Upton Sinclair wrote it, and he probably should have won also.
Is this a fictional book?
No. It's like it's a whistleblower book. He was a muckraker, which was like a reformist in the early 1900s.
I had no idea what that was.
Reformed the government. That's way too deep to get into right now.
That's a different podcast.
He is running against Frank Merriam for governor, and Frank Merriam is friends with every millionaire in California, basically. This is basically the big millionaire guy running against the reformist, and the Merriam tax was born. It was a funnel of money from studio heads directly to Frank Merriam's campaign to be governor. And guess where the money came from that the studio heads were giving him? From the fucking actors. They were taxing the actors of their studio. Every actor paid 1 day a week, gave their pay to the studio head so he could give it to Frank Merriam.
What?
Yes.
What?
Whether or not you've wanted to.
What?
It was not voted upon. You had no choice. You were giving money directly to Frank Merriam's campaign for governor.
That is wild.
Wild, dude. These studios were just doing whatever and whenever, and they did not care what you thought about it.
Yo,
the actors
skis,
were... Dude, the actors must have been the Irish mafia, but the fucking studios were the goddamn commission.
The studio...
Holy
if these actors are the Irish mafia, the studio is like the Taliban. Like
that's what it is. La Costa Nostra on steroids.
So James Cagney and of course some other actors, most notably Jean Harlow. James Cagney and Jean Harlow said, "No, we're not doing that. We're not paying you a day's pay. We don't even like Frank Merriam." James Cagney said, if I have to take a day's pay to go to Merriam, I'm going to take a week's payout and send it to Upton Sinclair. That's the deal.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So he was definitely revolting against that. And Merriam won. I mean, it went off without a hitch. So surprise, surprise there, right? The big backed by the studios guy.
Damn. Wait, so... Did
sounds oddly reminiscent of current times.
Oh, dude, it's never changed. It's never changed.
What was the response to that? Like, did he just not pay it?
He just didn't pay it. He and Jean Harlow didn't pay it.
And so
basically, again,
studios didn't do anything.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? So it was more than likely the smaller actors who were like, well, I guess there goes a day's pay towards the millionaire Frank Merriam.
Yeah, because they didn't have the cachet to dispute it. Did that go away once he got elected, or now they're like, now we're still keeping this? Now that we know we can make you give up a day's pay for something, we're gonna keep this up for something else.
They probably did it for a few things. This was the most notable one, like 1934 Merriam tax, if you want to look into it further.
Wow.
But this was definitely a very famous one, and this again was something for SAG to be like, so you guys sure you still don't want to join SAG?
Right,
they're literally taking...
That's the best marketing you can have.
No, they're feeding SAG stuff every day. Yeah. It's like the studios were so terrible that they literally had to be unionized against, you know?
It's so wild, dude.
It's so wild.
How is this not illegal?
Good question. Because 1934 is the Wild West.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
There probably just wasn't a law ever even conceived. Like, we'll never have to pass a law like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No one would ever do anything. No one would be that evil.
100-hour work days, spotlights and guards on set, but no. It's like even that the tax is just too much.
Oh man. And then so Warner Brothers pisses off our boy one more good time on his last film that he's doing for 1935. It's his fourth film. You know, it's around Christmas. It's called Ceiling Zero. Again, good movie. Just every Cagney movie is good to me, man. I don't know.
I gotta watch them. I gotta watch. You got me more excited to watch more Cagney films after this.
For sure. This one's Ceiling Zero, and it's he and his good buddy Pat O'Brien, part of the Irish Mafia, is doing this one. And they play badass World War I fighter pilots. And it's sick, dude. And James Cagney has this, like, mustache that apparently Jack Warner hated, so he made sure to keep it. Like, he was like, there's no way, because he's doing other movies at the time, you know, with like this mustache, and Jack Warner's like, please get rid of that thing, and he's like, no, just because you said that, I'm keeping it. You know?
Holy shit, I love it. I wish we had video footage of Jack Warner seething in his office.
I wish the walls in that office could talk when James Cagney and Jack Warner. I bet they threw shit at each other when they had meetings. Like, I bet scotch glasses flew.
Yeah, I was gonna say these guys are drunk as fuck.
Can you imagine
The screaming?
No, well, like the temperature on set. When you fish a take, maybe he's like with the director talking about the next whatever, and then some poor like PA has to come and be like, sorry, Mr. Cagney, Jack Warner wants to see you in his office.
It gets better. It gets better. So since he's keeping his mustache, the studio moves forward with making Pat O'Brien top billed in the movie. A direct breach of the contract that they signed with James Cagney for the film, where he was the lead. And so this combined with the old Merriam tax. Also, there was a thing in 1934 where he wound up doing 5 movies instead of 4. This is when he decided not only he was going to walk away from Warner Brothers, but he's suing them as well. He took it. Yeah,
when they breached the contract, he's got grounds now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He probably couldn't really do much in court of law before that, but he's probably just He probably just was like, I'm gonna see how much stuff I can do to piss them off, and then when they slip up, then I'm just gonna sue them. They might be like, we're playing from them day one.
Yeah, that's true. I bet his brother Henry was like, don't sue him yet. Don't sue him yet. Don't sue him yet. And then finally it was like, okay, let's sue him.
Yeah, just wait for them to break the contract. That's wild. Did his boy do anything in protest of like them changing the billing?
No, Pat O'Brien. I mean, maybe. But also
he didn't have as much pull. He wasn't as big of a star.
Yeah, he wasn't as big of a star, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's like they're making me top billed. I'm sorry. I don't know, I mean,
it's really good for me. You've been top billed on a lot of shit, dude.
We're homies. Look, it's the Irish Mafia. It's just business, right? You know. He goes into Christmas 1935. He walks out of Warner Brothers. In 1936, he is like in movie jail. He can't work because he has a lawsuit against Warner Brothers, but he's still under contract with them. So like, you know, Samuel Goldwyn and a few other bigwigs in town are just telling him, I'm sorry, like while the lawsuit is happening, we can't cast you.
Yeah.
We just can't get into that water. And his lawyer brother, William, took his case against Warner Brothers in court while he was doing it. So he finally saw the opportunity to pursue his true passion
of farming.
Yeah. So he returned to upstate New York and he started a farm. He bought a 69 acre plot of farmland with beach access and Martha's Vineyard, with a farmhouse built in the 1700s, which he and Francis moved into. So it looked this beautiful place.
How old was he during this time?
He was, let's see, it's 1936 by now. He was born in 1899, so he's 37 years old.
So this is like clearly a midlife crisis.
Well, I mean, kind of like a midlife vacation. Like, again, like he probably doesn't really care about like not being able to work because it's like, bro, like I'm so excited to just have some time to myself, for Jack Warner to not stress me the fuck out all the time.
And and it's also this hilarious thing that you hear about, like, you know, all three of us always wanted to be movie stars when we were younger, and we moved to LA, and this guy, James Cagney, is definitely one of those who like, I guess I'll be a movie star now, even though it's a pain in the ass. And then he even had this whole thing where, like, throughout his career, he fought so hard against, like, I'm not just a tough guy, you know? And it's like, this, like, 5'5" man was like, I'm more than just a tough, handsome, rugged man, you know? And it's like, Jesus,
I'm
dude.
a tap dancing, boxing, tough, handsome, rugged man.
I got layers like an onion. I'm a sensitive guy, all right? I'm not just a tough guy.
It's just I get what you're saying. It's like the things that people work their whole lives for are just like thrust upon him. When he has bitterness about it. And he's like,
Yeah.
I guess.
And it worked in his favor.
Yeah.
I mean, those walkouts in the studio, I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely, he became a huge movie star
Yeah.
because of it. But yeah, this was basically like, you know what? I hate this industry. I'm going to be a farmer. Like, fuck all this.
There's this joke I tell about Joaquin Phoenix a lot. That Joaquin Phoenix is seething atop a tower of money.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Joaquin Phoenix is the angriest person to be rich I've
Yep.
ever seen in my life.
No, absolutely. And it happens all the time. A lot of these guys rose. But, yeah, the house is really cool. The house was 1700s. And it had a studio, a guest house, and a barn. So Cagney put a vineyard on the farm. That was basically his main thing, was he made wine. Which, man, we got to find some Cagney.
Wait,
Cagney
does
wine
that
out
vineyard
there.
still exist?
Yeah, it's still out there.
Still making Cag wine?
Probably not.
Oh.
We got to find some though. There's some Cag wine.
Did he
floating
start a brand?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I think he just sold it to wine brands. I don't know. I'm not quite sure the goings on of his vineyard. I just know he was fulfilling his his lifelong dream of having a farm.
Right. Wait.
This is the perfect thing for the listeners to go do some research on. Is go find us a bottle of Cag wine.
Dude, find us a bottle of
do
Cag.
you think that exists? Do you think that a bottle of wine that he bottled still exists
It's
unopened?
out there. Gotta be out there. Definitely gotta be out there.
Exists unopened to this day?
If someone can find that, send us a bottle of Cag.
A bottle of Cag?
What's-
It's not a cab. It's a Cag.
Cag. Cabernet.
Cabernet.
When every time you open the bottle, it just smacks you in the face.
The wine that punches you in the face.
That wine, if that bottle exists, it's got to be so expensive.
Yeah.
That bottle's probably $5 million.
And it's either aged well or completely vinegar, completely just
trash.
pulp vinegar at this point.
I mean, if we find a bottle of Cag wine, we should definitely deliver it to Warner Brothers.
Oh my god. It just comes flying out of a window. Jack Warner's great grandson. It's like, you bastard.
Does the studio hold anything against him to this day?
Probably not. No.
Okay.
That's how it always is. It's always dude, for instance, Central Casting still brags about Brad Pitt doing Central Casting when he first moved to LA.
Yeah.
They fired him.
Oh.
They fired Brad once. I mean, now granted, he probably deserved to be fired. Don't get me wrong. But also nowadays, you go in there and they're like, "Look,
Right, yeah.
Brad Pitt refuses to work with Central these days, apparently,
Yeah.
because of the whole thing that went down.
Really?
That's what I hear. I hear that he does not use Central to
Interesting.
book extras. Yeah.
Yo, I don't blame him if you fired me and then
Yeah.
years later you're using my name as marketing.
Yeah, exactly. You go into the office and my picture is up, even though, you probably at one point made his life hell.
Yeah.
His new policy is he's just been using only El Pollo Loco chicken suit actors.
Dude. Man, that story is one of my favorites. I love that.
Wait, what?
Brad Pitt was in a chicken costume in front of El Pollo Loco when he was out here.
Oh.
As a young starving actor.
Really?
Yeah, that's somebody in their life saw Brad Pitt dressed up in a chicken costume.
That's incredible.
And but he kept the farm the rest of his life. He had this farm forever. Even when they didn't live there, it was like the summer at Martha's Vineyard farm house. And so one day, a car drives up the drive of Cagney's Vineyard. And I can just see him out there with Cagney's got a beard and some wine stained overalls on, he's trimming some things with hedge clippers.
Yeah.
And this car comes up the driveway and he's like, I'm retired now. I'm retired now. And they're like, come on, Cag, just one more mission. I'm out of the biz. Dude, it was literally like we were talking about that one where Daniel Day-Lewis went and became a cobbler in Italy, and how Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio apparently had to go track him down in some little Italian village. So this car pulls up, and it's this guy named Edward L. Alperson from a small studio in New York called Grand National Films. and Edward told Cagney that he wanted him for a 3-picture deal with his little studio in New York, $100,000 a picture, and 10% on the back end, which was like the beginnings of actors
I was about
getting.
to say, is that unheard of at this time?
This was kind of new. This was kind of a new practice to give an actor, especially had nothing to do with producing it, to give an actor a percentage of the profits for the films. Yeah, that's how they got him.
Fucking the Warners,
Dude,
even when he's not
absolutely,
working for him anymore,
absolutely.
because you know that like it's like they're gonna blame him for this forever.
Yeah.
He'll be like, now I have to give actors
son of a
back end
bitch.
because you took a movie of back end.
Cagney was one of the reasons why this
That's
exists to this
so
day.
wild.
I mean, like I said, I don't know if he's the very first case, but he is one of the very first cases of
That's
this
incredible.
happening. And like I said, it was $100,000 a picture, which these days it was 1.5 million, basically.
Wait, where
of
did the small
picture.
studio get the money for this?
I don't know where Grand National Films came from. They didn't last.
Oh,
he did 2 films with them, and they ran out of money.
Oh, they spent all their
Yeah,
money
yeah.
on James Cagney. That's
It was
why.
somebody who had a windfall of money. Maybe this Edward L. Alperson. He like inherited millions from his uncle and went and went and got James Cagney basically.
Wait, but so the movies didn't do well, or basically like the movies did well, but they weren't out soon enough to save the studio.
They did well. I mean, one of the ones. Oh, the 2 that he did were That Great Guy, the one where he's the weights and balances officer.
Oh,
yeah,
whoa.
he did that with Grand National Films.
Oh, okay.
Deb, you know which one we're talking about? Great Guy, where he plays an officer at the Department of Weights and Balances.
I do know that because I remember that concept, that movie, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." This is,
But I guess
it's the most absurd
Dude,
concept I've ever heard.
It's the first Cagney movie I watched, and it's one of my favorite ones. This man goes around, and if you're a grocery store and you're selling produce or you're selling meat, he will go into your store and check and weigh your chicken, and he's gonna search it. And if you have a lead rod inside of the chicken to weigh it down, he's gonna punch you in the fucking face. I swear.
Hey, this is not a comedy.
No. He went
and then
around.
tap dance on your body.
Dude, he slapped a man in the scene hard, like for real. For real, he slapped him very hard because he had a weight in his chicken. And of course,
I wish he would just use the chicken to do the slap.
just slap him with the chicken.
We have to write a comedy with the same premise.
I love it, dude.
That's
it's
so
such
funny.
a good movie. And of course,
So,
it's
musical
like,
movie.
Great guy.
When did the weights and balance office go away?
It's still there.
what?
Oh, yeah.
No, that totally exists.
No,
What?
when you weigh your truck at a weigh station, you are adhering to the weights and balances office. It's still to this day. It's still to this day.
Well, when they stop weighing chickens, are they still
Now,
weighing chickens?
They still weigh them. Somebody, I just don't know if they go in there with a suit and a top hat and weigh them and then slap you in the face like James Cagney did. I hope they do, to be honest. But, oh my god,
That's
dude.
part of the uniform.
So good, man. Everyone go out and watch Great Guy immediately. There's a bunch of really, really good copies out there. But then this is also where he did the movie Something to Sing About. The story about him moving to L.A., signing a contract, hiding his wife. So,
dude, that was absolutely autobiographical. Yeah.
ultimate slap in the face.
Yeah, because he's out for blood right now.
Yeah, he's out for blood. He can't get hired by
Did
anyone.
he write it
except for-
himself?
No. Now, that is a question because technically no, but he had to have
He had to
had
have.
something to do with the writing of this movie,
had to
or
have.
at least the choosing of the script or something. You
Yeah.
know, I mean.
I wonder if that was part of the deal. He was like, I'll do 3 movies, but I get to pick which one of them.
Yeah.
Like, I get to decide.
Yeah.
Like, I got this idea. Maybe I'm not a script writer, but sit me down with a script writer.
Right.
And, like, let's,
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, they unfortunately after that they went belly up. Probably because they were paying Cagney $100,000 a film before they even started.
Was that
making it.
unheard of?
It was a lot of money. Like I said, I mean, this was a small studio, and they were paying them the equivalent. They paid him $3 million basically to do films. It's like, I don't know, like, yeah, it just wasn't sustainable for them. And probably at the time, I mean, you look at the films; they're great films, and they're very well made. So I'm sure that they spent a pretty penny making them as well. You know, and probably just some, who knows what was going on in that studio, but they went belly up. But Cagney also got into some politics here.
Cocaine in the line budget.
Yeah, definitely. They call it a line budget for a reason, dude. You got to budget those lines.
We'll get into that in film history, 80s history of film.
Yeah. We'll get into that. Oh my god, dude, I cannot wait to get to Waterworld. Speaking of. Waterworld should have been called Cocaine World, probably. But
oh my god, I'm so excited.
Old Farmer Cagney in 1936, he agreed to be a sponsor for the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League. And the deal went sour when he found out that this Hollywood Anti-Nazi League was secretly a front for communist recruitment programs, which did not make his communist sympathizer people that were calling him that didn't help his case.
Right.
Yeah. So he pulled the plug on that one. I think Ronald Reagan was involved in that one as well.
Wait, what year is this?
This was 1936 at the time. Yeah, and then
Reagan was that old, wasn't he?
It's
so weird for me to think about.
Yeah, this is when he was in his career, and I'm spanning a few years at this point. You know, I'm not going year by year. Like in 1938. So 1938, finally, Cagney found out. It's so funny because I think the story really is like they had to come tell him, like at his house, that he won his case against Warner Brothers. His brother successfully lawyered the deal, and they offered him a 5-year, $150,000 a picture, which was $2.2 million.
Wait, so it was still Warner Brothers?
Yeah, so okay. Warner Brothers came at him with an offer. 5 years, $150,000 a picture, no more than 2 films a year, and full say-so over what he wants to do.
Oh, wow.
Like,
wait, how much money again?
It's equivalent of $2.2 million a picture.
Oh, okay.
So basically around $4 million a year,
okay.
2 films a year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
And whatever you want to do.
So wait. So we won.
No Brad Pitt.
Right.
Exactly.
So he won the lawsuit, but the lawsuit settlement wasn't money. It was a better contract.
It was a better contract, and I think maybe it was like a settlement. Maybe instead of paying him some big, because he wasn't suing for back pay or anything.
Right.
He was suing for breach of contract.
Right. Okay.
And so they probably instead just offered him a deal that he couldn't refuse.
Cool.
I mean, this is $150,000. It's $25,000 a month. That's the equivalent of $378,000, and that's $6,200 a week, which is around $93,000 a week. That was the deal, and this was again a huge deal for SAG. I mean, this man walked out, sued the studio, and then got offered the deal of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, actors everywhere were starting to see we have some pull in the industry.
Yeah.
The studios, the power began to wane for sure. Whole CAG had beat the shit out of him.
Did Jack Warner stay head of the studio throughout this entire thing, or at any point did Jack quit because he was like, I hate working with Cagney, I'm not going to do this anymore?
I think Jack Warner still runs the studio to this day. They have his corpse. Like, they have a skeleton. I've never been to the Warner Brothers
You never been to the lot?
studio. No, I've been to the lot.
Okay.
I've never been in the head office. You never know.
Listen,
Right.
there's this underground bunker in Hollywood that has the head of Walt Disney and the head of Warner, just like in Futurama. They're just in this glass jar, talking, giving orders, barking at people.
That's funny.
And don't worry, Reagan and Nixon are there too.
Yeah, good.
What's
Couldn't do
Nixon
without
up to
him.
with Hollywood?
Everything.
Nothing. He just wants to be a talking head.
He's just
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, he was friends with Elvis, so I don't know. So Cagney had successfully pulled the walkout. He said, I walked out because I depended on the studio heads to keep their word on this, that, or other promises. And when the promises were not kept, my only recourse was to deprive them of my services. That was how he put it, dude. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows he's on
Deprive
top.
them of my services.
Deprive
I
them of
love
my
that.
services.
Yeah.
So it worked. They signed the deal. He signed the deal that they offered him. He returned to Warner Brothers with a bang in 1938. He did a comedy called Boy Meets Girl, And one of his most famous movies, Angels with Dirty Faces, in 1938. That's the one where he's screaming on his way into the execution chamber and all that. Yeah, it's like it's the one where he and Humphrey Bogart and the Dead End Kids, Angels with Dirty Faces, and the Angels with Dirty Faces would earn him an Oscar nomination.
Oh yeah, has he won any Oscars at this point?
Not yet. This is his first nomination.
Oh wow.
At this point,
Okay.
yeah. And Pat O'Brien was in Angels with Dirty Faces as well, by the way. His homie. Yeah. So they were getting to do movies back and forth together. I'm sure Pat was happy to have him back at the studio too. I'm sure he's like,
this place sucks.
I miss my yeah. This place sucks without you, Cag. And they were back though. They were back to doing it. They were back to making the movies. And again, the Dead End Kids. We will absolutely have an entire episode of them. Don't worry. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, dude, the Dead End Kids. They did a Broadway play called Dead End, and the movie was picked up for a movie. Or the play was picked up for a movie adaptation called Dead End, and the kids from Broadway were in the movie with Humphrey Bogart. And they became the Dead End Kids after this, and they went on to make all these films together.
I think
Angels with Dirty Faces.
Do you remember you mentioning this at some point?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get into them. They had a whole career as the Dead End Kids.
Okay,
It was amazing, and they're awesome.
Dead End Kid sounds a lot like the Street Kids.
Yeah, Street Kids, baby. Maybe that's the Dead End Kids. That's what we are. That's what we should be called.
No, I mean that already exists with Street Kids.
Yeah, there you go, Street Kids. But so his first year back in 1938. He was the highest paid actor at the studio. He made about $324,000. And he ended in 1939. He would end his first decade of acting with the film The Roaring Twenties. Oh, man. Again, just go watch all of them. The Roaring Twenties is amazing. Again, him and Humphrey Bogart, they're World War I buddies. And Humphrey Bogart is this, just murderer. He kills children in the war and stuff. He has this line where shoots this teenager and he's like, well, he won't be seeing 15. It's like he's and it's just they go back to America and Prohibition starts and they become these huge gangsters and they kind of get pitted against each other. It's
That's so interesting.
Incredible.
Dude, I'm in.
Yeah,
You sold me.
Yeah.
You sold me.
And the next big thing that he did, he would win the Oscar, was Yankee Doodle Dandy, where he played vaudeville god and ultra patriot George M. Cohan, the guy who I was telling you about earlier, who he actually worked for in real life. And they began filming that movie the day after Pearl Harbor in 1941. And so it was super patriotic. Their whole thing was on set, there were American flags everywhere. It's a very patriotic energy, and they made Yankee Doodle Dandy with this coming out of Pearl Harbor. I mean, that's probably why he won the Oscar for it. Part of it. It was
could you imagine a movie being made, started filming the day after 9/11
exactly.
about the writing of the Star Spangled Banner?
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was America, baby.
Right.
And America loved it. And Yankee Doodle Dandy cleaned the fuck up at the box office. Cagney got his Oscar. Many critics at the time have since declared it Cagney's best film, which I disagree with, but a lot of people think that. They drew parallels between Cohan and Cagney. Again, another movie that he did where they both began their careers in vaudeville, struggled for years before reaching the peak of their profession, were surrounded by family, married early, both had a wife who they stuck with, who would just kind of let them go be movie stars and stuff. It was again, Cagney plays another movie where he's just basically playing himself,
Interesting.
And the film was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, won 3, including his Best Actor. And in his acceptance speech... go ahead, Deb, sorry.
I love how the Academy's just you're so great at acting. It's you've never done any of these things before.
Yeah. He's like, did you see Angels with Dirty Faces? Did you see it? Did you see The Roaring Twenties?
Wait, hold on. No, continue. I'll ask my question at the end.
Okay.
You might answer it.
In his acceptance speech, he said, I've always maintained that in this business, you're only as good as the other fellow thinks you are. It's nice to know that you people thought I did a good job, and don't forget that it was a good part, too. So he was kind of
Aw.
yeah.
Don't forget the writer.
Don't forget the writer, baby. Exactly. Yeah. Don't forget. This movie was after Pearl Harbor. He knew what it was. He knew. But they played the movie for the actual guy, George Cohan, in a private screening, like right before his death. And he personally thanked James Cagney for the wonderful portrayal of him.
Wow.
Yeah, which doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Does not happen very often. In 1942, Cagney announced that he's leaving Warner again, not on bad terms, but he just wants to start his own studio. He wants to start his own production company with his brother William called Cagney Studios.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They played the movie for the guy who Yankel. This is about the signing of the Revolution. The signing of the Declaration.
No. This is for the vaudeville king George Cohan, who he played in Yankee Doodle Dandy.
What's Yankel Doodle Dandy about? What's Yankel Doodle Dandy about?
It's about the vaudeville king George Cohan,
and not the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. I am so confused.
Where did you get that?
The title?
Oh. No. It's a vaudeville movie. You actually should watch it. It'll answer a lot of those vaudeville questions for sure. Yeah, it's a movie about George Cohan, who was it was like one of the most influential vaudeville people of all time, basically.
Okay.
This was kind of their relationship, I imagine, was similar to like Johnny Depp and Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
Where he played him in a movie and then he signed, like Thompson signed off on it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can continue.
That was funny, though. So in 1942, he announced he's leaving Warner Brothers to start his own studio with his brother William called Cagney Studios. And he also retreated back to the farm for a while. What, Drake? Drake's got faces going on. He has questions.
So wait, let me just ask for him. What is Yankee Doodle Dandy about?
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
How is it a patriotic movie if it's about vaudeville?
Because this guy was a super patriot, George Cohan. He was like a real American dude. And...
okay, I'll watch the movie.
Yeah.
We can move on. I know we're short on time. We can move on.
Honestly, it's not one of my favorites of his, so I've only seen it like once. I watched all of his other stuff so much more. I mean, yeah, it was a very patriotic movie. It was
okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Had the American flag everywhere.
Okay.
And they sang like, "Where were you when Yankee Doodle Dandy?" Stuff like that.
I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy.
All right, we can move on. I know we're short on time.
So he retreats back to the farm for a while. He joined the USO. He went and performed Yankee Doodle Dandy for the troops over in Europe in World War II. And in 1942, he was elected president of SAG. President of SAG, like you do.
I thought that's that of the United States. And I'd be like, wait,
Yankee
what?
Doodle Dandy, they
What?
just put him in office.
What?
They would never put an actor in office, you crazy son of a bitch.
Sounds like a bad idea.
Never happened. Never put a movie star.
Yeah, that's reserved for reality TV stars.
Only real politicians get president. So he was elected president of SAG in 1942, and he turned SAG's sights at the time on fighting the mafia's involvement in the film industry. That was like his big fight when he was president of SAG. And in 1943, Cagney Studios...
Did he stop acting during these years? He was just focused on being president?
He didn't stop acting, but he was forming his own production company. So
that's right, yeah.
That's mainly what he was doing. In 1943, they made a film called Johnny Come Lately. And they were trying to, yeah,
adult film parody.
yeah, totally. And they were trying to do something that was actually not patriotic war films at the time, because that was like the market was saturated with patriotic war films at the time. So much so, Cagney Studios was the reason. They are the ones who discovered World War II hero Audie Murphy and brought him to Hollywood. Drake, that's a whole episode we're going to do. Audie Murphy was a World War II veteran who won the Medal of Honor for like a very heroic act. He held off these Nazis for like a whole day. It's a big story. And after he got out of World War II and won his medal, they brought him to Hollywood and he became like this huge movie star.
Whoa, okay.
And he was playing in films as himself doing the things that he won the medal for. Like it's one of the craziest Hollywood stories ever.
Okay,
yeah, it was very cool, and he had very bad PTSD.
Yeah.
Oh god.
To hell with Bradley Cooper. Give me Chris Kyle.
Dude, the actual Chris Kyle playing. Hey, he was murdered by the government. Anyway, so Cagney,
I'll save that question for after the podcast.
So Cagney kind of bops around the 40s, getting Cagney Productions off the ground. He stars in a few non-tough guy roles. He wanted to show his sensitivity, no more tough guy, and play adaptations and basically things. They just, I don't know, they weren't really working anymore. I mean, people just wanted to see him be like, you dirty rat,
Sure.
Yeah, at this point,
Let
everybody.
me guess, like one of them was probably like this really dramatic play about being a farmer.
Exactly. Called The Dirty Farm Rat.
And then the Academy's like, fascinating. How could he imagine being a farmer?
By Jove. Jack Warner's just throwing things as he's like that fucker. I wonder if his whole life was just all about like ruining James Cagney.
At this point, Jack Warner is only speaking in gibberish as a drunken rage.
It's like a chihuahua. Things aren't really working out that well. So in 1949, he does return to Warner Brothers again.
Oh wow.
To do again White Heat. One of the best Cagney movies you gotta watch. He also pulled a deal to have White Heat. Cagney Productions isn't really doing all that well out in the world, but they are making some stuff. They're making things happen. They brought Audie Murphy out. They're enough clout just because he's James Cagney. So when he signed with Warner Brothers again to do White Heat, he brought his own production company in. Cagney Productions got basically absorbed into Warner Brothers.
Oh.
So all these people now are studio people. Like, that's kind of his deal. Was like, I'm coming back, I'll do White Heat, but I want Cagney Productions to be there to make the film. Mm-hmm. And this led to, I'm sure a lot of them had careers at this,
Right. Wait, so, but to this day, like, was this, because I've never heard of Cagney Productions still producing movies.
Drake, it's 2021. Everybody's dead.
I know, but like Lucasfilms is going to continue to be a film company long after
Cagney
George
Productions
Lucas is
was
dead.
no Lucasfilms.
Okay.
They didn't make the billion. But yeah, that was, when he went back to WB, that was kind of it. He went on to do films until 1961.
Well, that was my question, though. You said, like, it got absorbed into Warner Brothers. Did they just, like, everything just got, like, moved into Warner Brothers? Or
Basically.
did Cagney Productions, was that a subsidiary of Warner Brothers for a while after that?
It was a subsidiary. For a while. They were literally absorbed into it. And I'm sure. So, Cagney Productions was there to stay. I'm sure it was not called Cagney Productions anymore.
Okay,
maybe. He probably had a trailer on the lot that said Cagney Productions, something like that. But, there are some films, like White Heat does say Cagney Productions, and so they were there for sure. And, yeah, this was kind of it, though. He went on to do films until 1961, and he retired with just, like, one hell of a career. He hung his tap shoes up. He was in his 60s. And, he retired to his farm in Martha's Vineyard.
So, and he never did movies again? Because, like, did he never come out of retirement?
He did. In the 80s, he did some films. He came back out of retirement to do a few things as a very old man. But he had a lot of health problems. But when he was retired, though, in his 60s, they had a lot of fun. They would spend summer in Martha's Vineyard. They'd come to L.A. in the winter. He and Billy would throw these big parties at this famous Silverhorn restaurant. That was like, they were just kind of like retired.
That's cool. That's fun.
Party and movie stars.
That's so fun. Okay.
And Cagney in the early 80s, he was like, he had bad glaucoma, diabetes. He was having strokes.
Oh, shit.
I'm sure the early 1900s was just not good to the body.
Right, yeah.
If you manage to live to 60, you're going to pay for it. That's for sure.
You're going to regret
you're
that
gonna
decision.
fucking regret not dying. Which, unfortunately, that's exactly what he did. He died in 1986. He died peacefully on his farm at 86 years old. He left zero zip zilch to his adopted children.
Holy shit.
No money. A big funeral mass was held at St. Francis de Roman Catholic Church in Manhattan, the church where he was born.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
he was. Remember? Told you they'd come back around. Told you he'd die one day. But the eulogy was delivered by Ronald Reagan, who was president at the time of the United States.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Your eulogy's delivered by like the now president.
Yeah. Oh, he was a baller. Listen, his pallbearers were boxer Floyd Patterson, dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov, who this guy like always wanted to play Cagney on Broadway and stuff. Actor Ralph Bellamy, his homie and actor, director Milos Forman, Governor Mari M. Cuomo, and Mayor Edward L. Koch, one of the Kochs, were also one of the Kochs were also in attendance. They were all there. As pallbearer, Governor Mario Cuomo was one of his pallbearer.
Wait, why were the Kochs there?
The Koch brothers, man, they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I didn't know they had any film ties.
Oh yeah, Monsanto. Anyway, Cagney was in
Now you're just throwing out companies.
Bill and Melinda Gates were there too. Dude, they're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
I hope she's not broke after this.
She literally couldn't handle the cutthroatness of Bill Gates withholding vaccines for millions of people around the world.
Man.
She's like, I thought you were a monster with computer software. Now you're just fucking evil. It's like all these women, man, they could smell that. Like Jeff Bezos' girl, hightailed,
She didn't want.
Elon's on his like fourth wife. I mean, shit.
She didn't want the tracker chip placed in her.
But we'll get Cagney he was put in a crypt in the Garden Mausoleum at Cemetery of the Gate of Heaven in Hawthorne, New York. And I wanted to end it off with a few of his honors and legacy. Again, like I said, he won the Academy Award in 1943 for Yankee Doodle Dandy. He was also nominated for his contributions to the film industry. Cagney was inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960 with a motion picture star located at 6504 Hollywood Boulevard. Drake actually visited that star after the part 2. We went and saw it, and we sent you a picture, Deb.
Nice.
Yeah, his star on the Walk of Fame.
I did. I remember that.
In 1974, Cagney received the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award, and Charlton Heston, in announcing that Cagney was to be honored, called him one of the most significant figures of a generation when American film was dominant. Cagney, that most American of actors, somehow communicated eloquently to audiences all over the world and to actors as well. That was a pretty good Charlton Heston, I must say.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for
I
it. I
concur.
don't know who Charlton Heston
Damn
is.
it, Brian!
Oh my God.
God.
Try to leave this podcast now.
At the very least, watch Planet of the Apes. At the very least.
Oh, I've seen Planet of the Apes.
The old ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the old ones. Actually, it holds up.
Baby. That was
Oh,
all
okay.
Heston.
You've seen
Oh,
Charleston Heston.
okay. You know what? Now I know what you're
You
talking about.
dirty apes.
No, you dirty apes. Yeah.
Oh my God, you dirty rat. You dirty apes. No wonder Heston loved James Cagney so much. He was just doing Cagney.
Okay. Yeah. No. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Cool.
So Cagney. Sorry.
No. It's not. It's not relevant. I'll save it after the podcast. Dub's got to go.
So Cagney received the Kennedy Center Honors in 1980 and a Career Achievement Award from the U.S. National Board of Review in 1981. In 1984, Ronald Reagan awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 1999, the U.S. Postal Service issued a 33-cent stamp honoring Cagney. Cagney was among the most favored actors for director Stanley Kubrick and actor Marlon Brando.
Oh wow.
And was also considered by Orson Welles to be maybe the greatest actor to ever appear in front of a camera. Warner Brothers arranged private screenings of Cagney films for Winston Churchill.
Oh wow.
Yeah. On May 19th, 2015, A new musical celebrating Cagney and dramatizing his relationship with Warner Brothers opened off-Broadway in New York City at the New York Theater. Cagney the Musical, then moved to the West Side Theater until May 28, 2017. They did a film history Cagney on stage, man.
Wow.
2015.
Who died first, him or Jack Warner?
Oh, man. Like I said, Jack Warner's not dead yet, so it had to be Cag. Jack Warner probably had him killed. And that is it, everyone. That is James Cagney. That is the man. Woo. The man, the myth, the legend. In my opinion, one of the most influential movie stars of all time. I think we did him some justice here on this 3-parter. I think we did. I think we really got into it.
Collectively, like 6 hours of Cagney.
We got 6 hours of Cag, baby. You can never have enough Cag. Dude.
Now, I think we should make a promissory commitment to our listeners that Waterworld will not be 3 parts.
Waterworld's literally going to be 1 part. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now.
7 parts.
The Waterworld saga. It'll take us longer to do the podcast on Waterworld than it took to film the actual movie.
Cool.
Oh, man, yeah, we're going to get back to you with Waterworld and how Kevin Costner is... maybe one of the most difficult and asshole actors who's ever lived.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Fun fact, we'll get into this in the episode, but he never wanted to be an actor.
Wow.
He did it. He did it for pure financial reasons. He graduated from Cal State Fullerton with a degree in like business and accounting.
What?
And didn't get good work doing that. So he decided, acting's super easy and you can make a lot of money, so I'm just gonna do that. And that's how Kevin Costner became a celebrity.
That is apparent in Waterworld. I watched Waterworld and I thought, this man never wanted to act in the first place.
Dude, you gotta give us a little background on him too. Like, there's gotta be a build up to Waterworld.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Like, we gotta know all the building blocks first.
It won't be a 3-parter, but we're gonna get into it.
Cool.
We're gonna get into
just
it.
Make sure everybody watch it before you turn on.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it. Yeah,
dude,
podcast.
You'll love it. Jet skis.
I'm so excited.
Apocalyptic jet skis. These dudes, these stunt guys would like go underwater with their jet skis, and there's like, oh man,
so
boats, pyrotechnics, it's Mad Max on the water.
Oh, and you talk about someone who was mean to women. Throughout the whole movie, Kevin Costner's whole thing is just like, I might kill this woman at any moment.
What the fuck?
And everybody...
Or rape her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's like the Grim Reaper.
Too.
Yeah, and then Dennis Hopper is in a completely different movie than Kevin Costner. There are 2 movies. There's Kevin Costner and Dennis Hopper. We'll get into
Dennis
it.
Hopper's in Speed 3, The Final Frontier.
Dennis Hopper was having the time of his fucking life while Kevin Costner was trying to do like Citizen Kane on the water. Like,
Dennis Hopper's just all geeked out on, nose clams.
Yeah.
And he's just running around with a flamethrower on an oil tanker. It's kind of great.
It's gonna be great. You guys are gonna love it. I think the audience is gonna love it. I'm gonna love doing it. I'm gonna go right now and start doing write down the research that I already know on it, because I know way too much about this stupid ass movie. And we will be back to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Can I plug stuff real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Cool. You can find me on Instagram at Drake Cummings, on Twitter at Drake_Cummings. Thank you for listening. Dev?
Yeah. Sailor_Dev on everything, and you can follow Abracadabra Films or the MyFish app if you guys are interested in fishing.
You can find Dev's dog in our podcast.
Yeah, I'm kidding. That's
Dev's
Rogue,
dog.
everyone.
Hey, James, where can they always find you?
You can find me in the dumpster behind Ralph's with a bottle of whiskey. Film history of film.
Soon to be charged monthly for rent for the box at $1,400 a month because it's Los Angeles.
That's film history. The history of
the
film.
The history of film. That went well.
Oh, that actually went extremely well. That was very good. Cut.